With less than a month left in the PBA Governors Cup elimination round, it's time to take a look at the top performing imports around the league. Still with us to give his picks is PBA Rush analyst, of course, Coach Jeff. This conference, we've seen a lot of high-scoring imports, and I mean, you've lived it. You've been in the PBA, you played, and you also coached in the PBA. I just want to pick your brain. When choosing an import, do you just go for the best talent, or like what goes on in your brain when choosing an import, Coach Jeff?
Well, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
You know, you want to try to get the best talent available,
Right.
but you also want to get someone that fits your team. So understanding the composition of your team is crucial. What you need at the time. You know, if you feel like he's going to work well with the current roster that you have, and of course you got to be able to perform. So you know that's number one.
You know, it's also talking about fit. TNT were one of the teams that actually did an import change. They didn't have to,
Right.
but they did. They upgraded to a guy that you were very impressed with, Rondae Jefferson.
Right.
What is so amazing about him? And of course, in your mind, is he as good as advertised? Because we all know NBA caliber player coming here to the Philippines,
Right.
doing what he does.
Right. Yes, he is. So I think they, you know, upgraded, you know, wonderfully, because coming off of a guy like Hudson, I
Right.
think he was, again, him being a little smaller, he replicates a lot of the guards that they already have.
Right.
So to have a Rondae Jefferson there, it gives you more length, more height, and he allows those other three that you need to play, in Jason and Pogoy and Mikey, you need those guys on the court to play with him. So I think that's why it was a perfect fit.
I mean, Rondae played 6 years in the NBA, 6 seasons rather, and now he's averaging 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists in the PBA, doing a little bit of everything, Coach. I mean, when you take a look at NBA talent, how well does that translate to the PBA game with all the imports that you've seen playing in the PBA, Coach?
With Jefferson particularly, why it's crucial and why it's so you know, I guess nice in that
Right.
regard is because he played in the NBA currently. It
Yeah.
wasn't long ago. So, you know, it's just unfortunate, you know, we don't know exactly what happened, but obviously he played just a couple years ago. I'm always looking at him in my fantasy.
course.
So
Yeah,
I know he's
same.
there.
Yeah.
So to play and be able to come here, you know he's going to be a stud. So it just takes a matter of time. And like I said, he only played 3 games, but he's improving game in and game out.
Now, he had a game, unfortunately for him, he was outplayed by this guy, Cameron Clark of the San Miguel Beermen. Cameron Clark, he is the type of import that you know that he's there, not just because of talent, but because he has to fit. And he fits in well with San Miguel Geek.
Right, he really does. So I covered a couple of his games, and I call him the perfect import for San Miguel and what they need. Why do I say that? I say that because obviously you got to be able to have an import that plays well with Junmar and all the wonderful shooters that they have in San Miguel, right? The endless shooters that they have. So I've seen him, you know, in games where he doesn't even touch the ball. But what's he doing? He's rebounding, he's running the floor, he's boxing out, he's defending. And I'm really impressed with how he defended Jefferson in that game against Talking Tex. You know, so you know he has a knack and the heart to play both ends. But can he score amongst the best of them? Of course. You know, when you need him to, and you're relying on him to give you 2 points, it's a close game, he's someone you can go to.
28.9 points per game, as well as 10.4 rebounds and 3.5 assists for Cameron Clark so far this conference.
I mean, when you talk about Cameron Clark, Coach, it's just another quick question for Cameron. He's a great defender. And with a team like San Miguel, how important is that if they want to win a championship this season, Coach?
It's really important. And when I say him being a good defender, it's not just locking up the other import on the other side.
Right.
It's him being able to switch on ball screens and being able to stay in front of the wonderful, you know, guards that we have in our league. So to be able to do that is a big change from a Junmar where they're worrying about, you know, what to do when Junmar's man sets a ball screen. So yeah, he's all over the place and he's really a big help for them.
Jamaal Franklin of the Converge Fiber Xers leads the league in terms of scoring for all the imports. He scores 34.9 points per game in a team that has the most high-octane offense that anyone could ever imagine on a PBA hard court. Now, 70% of his shots, Coach, come from the perimeter.
Right.
Is it a surprise, one? And number two, just how special of an import, specialized of an import, do you need to have if you're Coach Alden Ayo? Because you require so much running, so much movement in your team.
Right. So I think why he's also a good fit for them, and they made that change after that
Right.
2 games, sorry,
Yeah.
is because this guy can do 2 things. He can shoot the ball, right? And he can, again, he's quick down the court. So those are his 2 strengths. So one thing about him that I'm impressed about is he's making shots from the 3-point line, beyond the 3-point line, with a challenge. So that's tough. That's hard to defend. So you know that teams are paying attention to him, and Phoenix did a good job in kind of, keeping a guy on him that last game.
Yeah.
But again, because him just really carrying the load alongside, Maverick and Messi.
Right. I mean, I remember one game, I think he shot more than 23s, attempted more than 23s, and that just goes to show, I mean, this
he has the green
Converge
light.
team, he has the green light, and they just live and die by the 3. But
Right.
talking about Jamaal Franklin, how different is he compared to Cameron Clark that you mentioned that he just gels well with the team?
Right.
Jamal Franklin's a totally different import compared to him.
To be honest with you, I think Jamaal Franklin is really just that pure shooter. So, and he could do that against probably the best amongst all the imports. So now the challenge for him, especially going into the next few games and going into the playoffs, is are you going to be able to defend, right, just like a Cameron Clark?
Right.
Because when you compare those two, it seems like Clark has more length, right, a little bit more athleticism, right, and a little bit more built. It seems like, that's fair to say. So yeah, if they can figure that out, then I don't see why they can keep going.
We now move on to the honorable mention segment. So if your favorite import isn't here, it's probably going to be in this segment. All right. So we're going to start off with, I'm going to assume, majority's favorite, Justin Brownlee. Again, Barangay Ginebra have had a weird schedule because of the long break, because of the
FIBA
rather
break.
late start. The late start they had in conference because playing in the finals.
Right.
The Gilas break. And of course, the fact that it feels like they're splitting time. A lot of Ginebra players were actually doing Gilas duty as well.
Right.
And their import,
Coach.
Justin Brownlee,
Right.
is also splitting time. How impressed are you by the fact that he's still putting up numbers despite the busy schedule
Right.
and despite everything being compact here for Barangay Ginebra?
So one thing to remember is Ginebra has played 3 less games than everybody else. So at the end, when it's all said and done, at the end of the elimination, he's going to be one of your top imports. He's going to be there with his averages, and you can expect Ginebra to again, contend for that top 4 spot. Are we surprised? Of course not. One thing about Justin is he's consistent, he's a hard worker, and he knows Philippine basketball.
Yeah, and of course, another guy mentioned here in honorable mentions is this guy's teammate, KJ McDaniels. Coach,
See
I'll
that
ask
guy
him
every
about
day.
it because he probably knows more in general. A lot of people saying, Jegs, that KJ looks more fit this time around compared to his last tour. I know the last tour was a bit of a late addition and he only had a couple of games in, but then you work with him right now. How is he? And of course, he seems to be a guy really at home here with Philippine basketball.
I mean, talking about being a great fit, I think he's a great fit for our team as well. He's a leader first and foremost. He's in the gym earlier than everyone does his work, and that just goes to show, I mean, how good of an example KJ is. He's in good shape, as you mentioned, Pao, coming into this conference, and he knows Philippine basketball already.
Yeah.
He played for different teams, NLEX, for TNT, and now for Meralco, and he's just going to continue what he's doing this conference.
And of course, the last one's Antonio Hester, and unfortunately, we don't have enough time to talk about him. But then, still, the change that he made coming into the Pure Foods franchise really made a big difference, and you can see it on the record. Now, the PBA Governors Cup action continues tomorrow with a doubleheader at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. The Rain or Shine Alaska Painters will look for their 3rd win against the Phoenix Fuelmasters at 3 p.m. After that, it's a showdown between the 5th and 6th seeds as the San Miguel Beermen face off against the Meralco Bolts at 5:45 p.m. You can catch that live on One Sports, TV5, and on PBA Rush and Signal TV.